I would like to call the March 10th, 2025 regular board meeting to order, MCOE. I did read that the president is supposed to be announcing that the meeting is live and recorded, so I will be announcing that it is live and recorded before I ask you all to stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1.2, approval and adoption of our agenda. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Item 1.3, approval and adoption of the minutes of our meeting February 10th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve as written.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Item 1.4, approval and adoption of the minutes of our February 20th, 2025 meeting. The motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the February 20th minutes as written.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 1.5, do we have any public participation? I'm trying to share my screen. There is no public participation. Okay. No correspondence and no consent agenda. Moving on to item 4.1, our second read and approval of our board bylaws and exhibits. Everybody had a chance to go through those. And do we have a motion to approve these as a package?
I'll move that we approve the bylaws as a package.
Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Item 4.2, our resolution 25.3.1, Child Abuse Prevention Month.
This and the next one are ones that we recognize. There are lots of agencies or programs or causes that have a month, and these are two that we think are related to the work that we do, so we want to bring them to you as we do every year. And then there will be various activities that MCOE and our schools do in recognition of these months.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So approved. Item 4.3, resolution 25.3.2, National Autism Awareness Month. I'll have a chance to read that one. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the autism.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Item 4. I wasn't supposed to do a roll call vote, was I? No. Okay. Item 4.4, review and approve the second interim budget report.
You've got such a nice rhythm going, we kind of hate to slow it, that we have some information that's quite pertinent, and Suzanne Steele, our Director of Internal Fiscal, will present.
Welcome.
Good morning. Okay, so I'm going to go over the second interim budget today. But first I wanted to, before I dive into the second interim, I wanted to explain the budget cycle for schools and county offices. I think you all have a copy. The next slide is, this is a graphic of our budget cycle. We have 3 budgets during the year. The first one is the June adopted budget, then we have first interim, and then second interim. I included closing the books in this graphic because that has a bearing on the interim budgets. The next page is explaining the budget cycle a little bit further. The purpose of the budget is to allocate resources, meet goals, and ensure that public funds are spent responsibly. Interim budgets are developed so that we can monitor and adjust the different budget components according to the goals of the county office. The timeline for budget and fiscal work for the year begins with the June adopted budget. This is developed during the spring of each year, and it must be adopted and submitted to California Department of Education by June 30th. Before we begin our work on interim budgets, we have to close the books, and we close the prior year's books during the summer and early fall each year. The result of closing the books are a set of documents called unaudited actuals, and those are due to the Department of Education by October 15th. The next budget in the cycle is first interim. The first interim budget is significant because it's developed after we close the books, so we can more accurately project our revenues and expenditures for the year. This is due by December 15th to the California Department of Ed. The final budget in the cycle is second interim, and that's developed in February each year, and it's due March 15th. And it includes actual revenues and expenses through January 31st, and then we project the budget for the remainder of the year. The second interim budget will be presented today, and everything looks great on this budget, and it presents a positive financial outlook for the year. The County School Service Fund is our general fund, and this graphic here is a snapshot of the major components of the budget. The columns labeled 24-25 second interim and difference will be reviewed. The difference column are changes from the first interim budget. So you can see that we have projected beginning fund balance of $29.69 million. Our total revenues are projected to be $26.4 million. That's an increase of $679,000 since first interim. The total expenditures are $31.4 million, which is a $561,000 increase. The net increase or decrease to fund balance is a decrease of a little over $5 million. And then our ending fund balance is $24.6 million, which is an increase of $117,000. So this next one is also a snapshot of the budget, but it's more detail, and it gives more detail on the different revenue sources and expenditure types. This is included in your budget book, where it's probably easier to read, and this is what I'll go over in more detail. So the first major component of the budget is the beginning fund balance. Our beginning fund balance is $29.69 million. The actual beginning fund balance is known once we close the prior year's books and have determined the ending fund balances. The prior year ending fund balance becomes the current year beginning fund balance. I said that right. Ending fund balance includes amounts equal to restricted reserves, commitments, assignments, an amount designated for economic uncertainty, and an unappropriated amount. The beginning fund balance includes funding that may have been received in prior years, but not spent in those years. When revenue that has been received but not fully spent, and the resource allows for an ending fund balance, those amounts become part of the ending fund balance, and then in turn, the beginning fund balance of the subsequent year, rather than being shown in the revenue accounts. These funds are available to spend, so you'll see the budgeted expenses in the budget, but not the revenues, because it's all in the beginning fund balance. The next major component of the budget are revenues. And revenues consist of federal, state, and local sources. The projected revenues are $26.4 million, which is an increase of $679,000. Federal revenues decreased $141,000. Our local assistance entitlement, which is the federal education funding, decreased in the portion that's passed through to MCOE from SELPA. All special education revenues are allocated to SELPA, and then there are several off-the-top expenses on the SELPA's budget. some of those expenses, off the top expenses, are pass-throughs to MCOE to run our special ed programs. Special education IDEA ARP funding was removed as it's no longer available, and that was $50,000. There was an increase to supportive inclusive practices of $27,000. State revenues increased $56,000, and that's due to workability increase of $12,000. That's student wages paid, and we're reimbursed for those wages paid. So that's why the expense went up, but also the revenue went up. The alternative education student support and enrichment decreased $10,000, and that's because there was a slight ADA decrease at P1. We added infant discretionary funding of $16,000. The funding was removed at first interim because we thought that we were no longer going to be allocated that, but then it was restored for second interim. And then we added the community school partnership funding of $57,500. Local revenues increased $764,000. Interagency services expenses increased $21,000. So the amounts that are paid by those agencies for those services increased as well. Title III increased $20,000 because we received a new award. The special education allocation from SELPA to MCOE increased $40,000. Early Start allocation increased $25,000. Early Start is our infant program. We added a few new funding sources. The 21st Century Regional Academy for $57,000. We added technical assistance for the California Community School Grant of $120,000. We added a donation from Mendocino County Juvenile Justice for homeless student snack packs, and that was $50,000. And then we added the healthcare career pathway funding, $322,000, and that's for a new CNA program that we're going to run next year through our adult education program. Expenditures are also a major component of the budget. Expenses include salaries, benefits, supplies, equipment, services, utilities. And our total projected expenditures are $31.4 million, which is an increase of $561,000. Total salaries are $15.1 million, and that's an increase of $212,000 from first interim. We added salaries per the new funding sources that I previously mentioned. There were also slight increases due to substitutes for staff out on leave and supplemental hours, things like that. And then the major component of this increase is $100,000 that was contributed to SELPA's program specialist costs from our educator effectiveness funds. So we moved those expenses from SELPA to our educator effectiveness resource. Total benefits are $6.5 million, which is an increase of $29,000 from first interim. And those benefits just increased in conjunction with salary increases. Our benefit cost to salaries is 43.61%. It's been hovering around 43% for the last couple of years. Materials and supplies is $1.1 million, and that's an increase of $153,000. These increases are in conjunction with new or increased funding sources, most notably the snack pack donation, healthcare career pathway, K-12 Redwood Initiative, and the 21st Century Regional Academy. We also made adjustments to department budgets per the actual expenditures to date. Travel and conferences is $980,000, and that's an increase of $233,000. And again, those are because of those increased or new awards. Rentals, leases, repairs is $148,000. That's a slight increase of $22,000, but it's mainly due to a master lease agreement with Enterprise, where we're going to start leasing vehicles for our fleet rather than purchasing them. It'll be a cost savings overall. Professional and consulting services is $4.8 million, which is a decrease of $102,000. Some of our projected expenses move to other expenditures per our actuals. So when I'm developing the budget, I look and see what our actuals to date are and project out what they might be through the end of the year. And if we're overspending or underspending, we may need to move expenses between other types of expenses. So from supplies to services, vice versa. The next major component of the budget is the increase or decrease to fund balance. The result of revenues less expenditures is either a surplus or a deficit. A surplus means there are more revenues than expenditures, and a deficit means there are more expenditures than revenues. The second interim projects deficit spending, as many expenses are covered by the beginning fund balance rather than revenue. As previously explained, prior year revenues that were received and not spent in that year are included in the beginning fund balance to cover the expenses in subsequent years. We have a substantial beginning fund balance to cover our deficit. Our second interim projected deficit is less than the first interim projection. The final component of the budget is the ending fund balance. County School Service Fund, our general fund, ending fund balance is $24.6 million, which is an increase of $117,000. The ending fund balance is calculated by taking the beginning fund balance, adding revenues, and subtracting expenses, and then this amount offsets the deficit. Our ending fund balance is comprised of various types of reserves according to their function. Restricted programs are $1.09 million. Restricted balances are related to grants and can only be used for specific purposes. Commitments are $5.9 million. These are amounts committed by the board for specific purposes, and our commitments are facilities upgrades, technology upgrades, district loans, and STRS and PERS increases. Our assignments are $715,000. These are unrestricted balances, and those are in unrestricted resources such as lottery or the Medi-Cal administrative activities. Then we have a reserve for economic uncertainty, and that is $4.7 million. This equals approximately 15% of our total general fund expenditures. And this would cover a few months of essential expenses during times of fiscal instability. We've never had to use that. Unappropriated or unassigned is $12.1 million, and that's up from first interim $208,000. This is not reserved for any specific purpose. This is the amount remaining after all of the other expenses and components of ending fund balance have been determined. And this amount can be used to cover deficit spending or other emergent contingencies that occur during the year. So in summary, our beginning balance is healthy at $29.6 million, and a large portion of this is spending down one-time funds and carryover from multi-year grants. Our revenue projections have increased to $26 million. Our expenditures have also increased in conjunction with funding changes, and they are $31 million. There's a net decrease to fund balance of $5 million, and deficit spending is projected as previously explained. However, we have a healthy beginning balance to cover this. Our ending fund balance is projected to be $24.6 million. Unappropriated ending balance is also up from first interim at $12 million. MCOE is in a good position for fiscal year 24-25, and we will be able to meet our financial obligations for the current year and 2 subsequent years.
Thank you so much. All right. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one. So it looks like we're spending a little bit more than we have coming in this year. But leftover funds will cover that? That's not going to come out of our reserve?
That is correct, yes. So we always have that little bit of a deficit spending because there are always amounts in prior years that we've received have not spent, so those fall out to the ending balance, which become the beginning balance. So those are already included in that beginning balance. So rather than it showing in a revenue source, it's showing in the beginning balance.
It's good. I like seeing a little reserve there.
Yes, me too.
Okay, any other questions? That was my question as well. I didn't quite understand how we were in a healthy position. I wasn't sure whether I should ask, because it's in Heather's report as well, shows the 5 million deficit. How can we be in a healthy position? Okay,
And when we close the books, it's always a better picture.
we trust you.
Yeah, okay, great.
Sandra's an excellent.
Any other questions or concerns?
Thank you for the report. It's very helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Heather, were you going to
We need to move to approve, right?
speak on? I know, I just saw Heather's. She was, Suzanne's doing it all, okay. I was just curious if you were gonna speak up too.
Yep,
So that-
Suzanne's
all
on
right.
that.
Any questions or concerns? Do we have a motion?
I will move that we.
Thank you, Michelle.
No, she can move, sorry. 1 second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4.5, review and approve of 2025 board goals. Okay.
So what's attached there is what incorporated the changes that the board made at the Friday meeting. Is that correct, Veronica?
Correct.
So as you'll recall, there's not a lot of changes there. Veronica, where can they look to see the changes?
The changes were made in,
Second to the last.
Second to the last bullet, and then the one, under. So yes, the second to the last bullet, the board will explore opportunities to educating local district governing boards on employee housing options, and the board will explore for use of MCOE property. And then there was one other one you guys did, which was, I believe, was under student program.
I should have kept a copy of mine.
I know it was only on Friday, but it seems like.
I thought I had my piece of paper right here, but apparently I don't.
I don't think there was another addition.
I think we had two
strike
changes.
We did. So one thing that we struck was
Meeting with community leaders.
meeting with community leaders, and then in the first bullet, the
And calendar.
yeah, there had been language in the first or second bullet about giving you a year an activity calendar or something like
Yeah,
that.
and that'll come. Yeah.
Which we
Because the
we actually
activities
have a
are
calendar, a list to give you, but that was taken out for the sake of the public that might be listening, because information doesn't all come at one time. It's just ongoing information to the board, so we didn't want to make it sound like you would get a one and done sort of document, but that's really ongoing communication about events that board members can go to.
All right, any more questions on item 4.5 for our board goals? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the board goals.
I'll second.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to item 4.6, the official CSBA 2025 delegate assembly ballot.
This comes to you, I think is this annual? I think at any rate, there's only one person, Michael Greer, who is the current representative, and he's the only person on the ballot at this time as well.
Yeah, he's interesting. I sat next to him at a breakfast.
Is he from
Yes.
Lake County?
No, he's from Del Norte.
Oh, from Del
Yeah,
Norte,
he's
okay.
up north,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Reminds me of Larry-ish. Ish. All right, any questions? Okay. Do you need a motion to approve our delegate assembly ballot?
I move to approve our
Thank you,
delegate
Michelle.
assembly,
representative.
Thank you. Can I get a
I'll
second?
second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Item 4.7, our prospective board member interviews and appointments sort of took a turn this weekend.
It did. So we had 2 applicants, both have withdrawn. Since then, we've heard a couple of other people that may be interested. But we have Frank Zotter from School and College here, so that the board can discuss potential next steps. And if there are any questions, we wanted to make sure that there was legal counsel here available to get those questions answered. This position has to be filled by March 28th. Otherwise, we need to go to an election. And so one idea that the board may consider is opening it up again and then we had set the deadline based on having the interviews in a regular board meeting. We certainly can schedule a special board meeting just to interview applicants and closer to the 28th.
Yeah.
And so reopen it and still try to go through the appointment method because it is much cheaper. We don't want to spend taxpayer money when we don't need to. So that would be one option, but if that is an option, we may want to revisit some of the questions that we asked on the application, because as I recall on Friday, there was some concerns that maybe one of their questions was not appropriate regarding do you have children in school. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. And the board, if we wanted to reopen it up, Frank, I believe they would need to take make a motion to extend the application deadline for candidates. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so we can do that?
So do we have to have a motion on the floor before we discuss the details of it, or?
Frank?
That's not necessary.
That's
You
okay.
can discuss it and then somebody can make a motion based on the prior discussion.
I did have a question. Reading through one of the applications of the candidates, they did mention that they were unavailable this day. Would it be a possibility to reschedule the interview without opening up?
He has since then withdrew his.
Yeah, I don't think that was
Okay.
He mentioned that in his application, but when I spoke to him, I was worried about that on Friday, and I called him and I left the message, and as soon as I left the message, he emailed me and said that he was withdrawing his application.
And it was for purposes other than?
After considering it, he didn't say why. I made it really clear that we could have Zoomed him in if we needed to do an interview, so it wasn't because of that.
Yeah, that was my next question for Frank, was if we do need to make it on a work day after 5, can we all attend via Zoom?
You can if you have enough feed time to do it according to the, I think traditional teleconferencing is the only way that everybody can Zoom in. The one that allowed everybody to Zoom under the pandemic, that's defunct right now because it's there, but it's only available if there's a public health emergency. And then the other one, there's the 2 new provisions that allow, at least till the end of this year, legislature keeps extending these out like a year at a time, the just cause and the emergency circumstances. That one does require that there be a quorum in the same room, basically. Under traditional teleconferencing, excuse me, everyone can be on Zoom, but you have to then publicize where you're calling in from. Public has the right to attend at each end of those meetings. And at least a quorum has to be in the territory, which would be somewhere within the county, basically. So, because we've had people obviously zooming in from out of state and so forth. Then you still do have to have a quorum in the territory. But in theory, again, if you have all the other requirements, such as a handicapped accessible place where people could attend if they wanted to at remote locations, then yes. I mean, of course, Fort Bragg, there is a police station has a Zoom room that they sometimes let people use.
We have it.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, there'd be ways to set it up so that it wouldn't have to be in a private home necessarily. It could just be someplace where people can attend. And then if you meet all those requirements, then everybody can Zoom in. And but you still have to designate some places kind of where the public can then meet.
And similar to what we did for that very short special board meeting that we had earlier in February, and we just made it available to the public here, available to the public on the coast, and then anyone that wanted to Zoom in from their home posted their address was posted in the agenda. So if we did that, it seems quite accessible, and probably we could find a day that would work for this body since it wouldn't require you to come in, so that's great news.
So my next question is, how do we go about changing the fill date for March 28th? Do we have to?
Well, I think we just need to repost it, and we can advertise again, change it on our website, and change change the deadline. I think if we want to extend that, if the board wants to extend that, then I think the first step is to figure out what date we can have a special board meeting, and then we would make the deadline probably we would need to post the agenda 24 hours in advance, so we would make the deadline probably 48 hours in advance so that staff has time to make sure that everybody meets the criteria and all that stuff. So I think the first step would be to find the date that would work for this board to convene.
And that is the
The
meeting to a point.
The meeting to the point. So, and the meeting can take place on the 28th. That is the deadline. So if we
Fear
could
is
do it.
though we have the same thing that happens
I
again,
agree.
and we're right up against it. So my recommendation would be that we try to move at least a week before, maybe the 21st, although that's a crazy day for me, but like that week of the 17th to the 21st. That way we have another week in case we have applicants cancel again. Just to.
I have a question. I know we just did a first read and it was included in one of the policies that we had the first read on, but is there a time limit as to how long this has to be posted?
24 hours. If it's a special board meeting, it has to be.
No, not the opening. Like,
No, that's just, and again, if you have family or friends that you know of who might be interested, it's always good to put the arm on them too. I actually had to answer a question for the K-12 district about whether or not they have to advertise for an interim superintendent. And somebody thought that there was a legal requirement for that, and I said, no, I mean, it's the same. And I was using the example of appointing somebody under the 50/90s to put somebody on a school board, that if you have a friend or someone who's expressed an interest in the past, you can simply appoint that person without any particular process. It's really just, you know, how much effort and time and money do you want to put into advertising and seeking candidates. So, but, you know, other means are certainly available if you can, you know, take advantage of it. And I think the superintendent just indicated that there are people who
Yeah, I think there's a
already
couple
said they
people
might
that
be
are interested in it. I think that the timeline snuck up on them, or you know.
oh, okay.
So we could
So it's not like
probably
we have to
extend it.
have the position posted
Right.
for a certain amount of
Right.
time. Okay, thank you.
and then reach out to those folks to make sure they
Yeah.
know about it.
This might be off bit. What if the recommendation was to extend it to our next board meeting? And then you have an extra 2 weeks of,
But don't we have to have it filled by March 28th?
I think you can extend that date.
No,
that can.
No, it's 60 days.
Yeah.
That's by code. That's 60 days, and I'm not really sure who, you know, would be the police out there to enforce that. But I guess somebody could then come along and try to challenge the appointment later if the
Right.
person were appointed after the 60 days.
So if we
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah.
So that's it, and then after 60 days, we have to go.
Yeah, those
Like an
code sections
election.
unfortunately are very unforgiving. They set these deadlines, which I'm not really sure are realistic, but that's what the legislature decided to saddle us with. So,
But then we host an election and nobody.
So-
Unified just had this very thing,
Nobody
Yeah.
and nobody filed.
yeah,
And
so that's the
so-
problem.
So they ended
we
up
spent
appointing anyway.
all that. Yeah, so
I think that's what they did.
yeah, they did. That's kind of silly that we have 60 days.
That's the problem with school elections generally.
Well,
They
I
just
have
blend
availability on the 17th and on the 19th to have a meeting in the morning at 10 o'clock.
Well, we can also do something after hours because that
Not working, yeah.
Right.
Oh, after hours, okay.
Or like right at
All right.
4:45 or something, you know, the last 15 minutes.
I'm a lot less of
At the end of the day.
I could do Monday, the 17th. I could do Thursday, the 20th. Or Friday, I can't do.
What about
Friday.
Monday the 24th? That's I think Michelle has a good point of trying to do it sooner, but I Mondays kind of work better often, and that would still give us plenty of time to review the applicants.
I can't do it then. We have
Okay. Because the timeline for the applicants, you know, if we're opening it up, if this is not, well, I do think we have some people that are gonna get their applications in pretty quickly once we open it, but
So if we do it on the 17th, we have to have those applications in.
Otherwise, we reschedule it, right?
Right, which means that we're posting it for a handful of days. I think that's pretty tight.
It is pretty
I would
tight.
recommend later in the week.
I was hoping to come to the science fair.
That's this Saturday.
That's
That's
15th.
too soon.
That's too soon, yeah.
Did
There
you
is
say
actually
you
nothing
available on the
preventing us
20th,
from doing it on a
The
weekend though.
20th,
Yeah.
at night,
Well, just
or in the
even,
evening. Yeah, I have
4:45.
time, yep.
shall we do, is the 20th? That's 3 more days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
March
do the
fifth.
20th.
Did you say 4:45?
Yeah. Here, right?
Yeah.
Nice room.
Well, we would post it here, Fort Bragg, and remote if anybody wants to attend remote. So we could do all those things.
It'd be great to work with Little Unified and get it remote. Although I don't care posting my
March
address.
20th?
It's-
March 20th at 4:45. Here or remote.
Here or Fort Bragg,
Yeah.
which would be remote from Fort Bragg.
So when we, Frank, when we want to go via Zoom from home, I have to be ADA compliant and I have to have wheelchair access, but I have stairs.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to use that then unless you had some kind of like an outside, like a,
I could be
Shed.
outside in my,
Frank,
Front
does
yard.
every spot have to be ADA compliant?
every place that is listed as a meeting location on a
Oh.
remote, but using traditional teleconferencing rules, yeah, it has to. We've even recommended to people when they're zooming in, say from New York or from, a different state or something, that are different, even different country, that they at least nominally, nobody ever shows up, obviously, 3,000 miles away, but that just to be consonant with the rules that they should like hold it like in a meeting room like this as opposed to in their hotel room or in their car, just so that way there's no argument later that they violated that rule.
I could go down, as long as it's not raining.
You must live like South Coast maybe, or,
No, I'm in Deerwood, but we have a hilly area and we have stairs everywhere.
oh, I see.
Our parking lot's flat. Could keep a wheelchair in there, as long as I have internet access in my parking
I was
lot.
gonna say perhaps you do it from here too.
Oh, I'm close enough to come here.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think then if I think that if the board wants to do that, then we need a motion to
Okay.
extend it, extend the timeline. And I think that if we're having a meeting on the 20th, we would extend the timeline to say 5 p.m. on the 18th, which I don't think the board has to decide the deadline. That just, for your information, I think that's when we would close it so that we have sufficient time to go through them and prepare them and post them. 4:45 on the 20th. So I think the board needs to make a motion to extend the period and to hold a special board meeting on the 20th at 4:45. And I think that can be all in the same motion. Am I correct, Frank? It can be all in the
Yes.
same motion.
I'll make the motion that we extend the open board seat and hold the interview on March 20th at 4:45 p.m.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Some happy people out there.
Are you in favor? Yeah. Okay. All right.
I think one thing that, Frank, since you're here, there was some question about, one question that we have on the application is, do you have children or grandchildren in the school, something along those lines. The board was a little bit uncomfortable with that, and I understand that. Is that a question that we should not ask? Should we rephrase it to what connection do you have with schools? Do you have some recommendation there?
I think something a little more general like that one,
Okay.
because again, it's kind of the classic thing about why do you want this job, basically.
Sure.
That's kind of the decision, and what connection do you have with the schools that gives you an interest in this event, something like that. So
Right.
it doesn't have to be so specific about, because again, having children is certainly not a requirement.
Sure.
And in job applications, of course, you're prohibited from asking about whether they have a family, so.
Right.
And I think, you have a little more discretion when you're appointing a public official, but I think you can make, it's kind of unseemly.
Sure.
So.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Frank, for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Yes, thank you very
I
much.
just have one more question on this. So if worst case scenario, we get applicants, they cancel again, what is our backup plan? Because we have 8 days at that point. should we just look at our calendars and free up a potential other day? Should we make sure we hold the 28th open just in case? I'm just.
We could when we post that special board meeting, we could agendize a backup at that
Okay.
board meeting perhaps.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would recommend
So-
we do that,
yeah.
just, and as board members, just be thinking, because it can happen.
Well, even if they all apply and the board doesn't feel comfortable with the selection or there's not a majority vote,
Right,
then we would still have some questions to answer. So that's a good point.
Do we need to make a motion to change that?
No, that's just a suggestion for us.
okay,
We can-
just a
we can-
suggestion,
okay.
so, yeah.
Okay. All right. No more questions for Frank. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 5.1, press release, our 39th Mendocino County Science and Engineering Fair, our STEAM Expo.
Yes, you might have
hosted
seen
by
that.
Our wonderful.
Yes. Brooke's doing some great work on that. If you've probably seen that in the paper or in some of the news, online news sources. So that's coming up this Saturday, and if you can come, it'd be great. It's fun to watch. Even if you just drop by, and if you can't, we understand. But it's an event that the MCOE puts on a lot of events. This is the one that involves the most MCOE staff by a long shot, so it's a fun one to come to. And if you can come, it's an all-day thing pretty much. The prime time to come would be between 2:30 and 4. 4 o'clock is when we'll do awards. 2:30 you'll be able to the exhibits will be open to the public. Prior to that, students will be presenting to judges and whatnot. But at 2:30, the public can just walk through and see the presentations.
Nice. All right, moving on to item 6.1, MCOE school reports and student enrollment reports.
So this comes to you every month, and you can kind of see the numbers there. I don't know if you have any questions.
Everything looks pretty much status quo. Any concerns or questions? Moving on to item 6.2, MCOE HR February personnel report. Looks like we've got some new hires. Anyone want to speak on that?
Do you have any questions about it? I just accidentally closed my agenda, so I'm reopening it right now.
No worries. That looks pretty straightforward. Moving on to item 6.3, our Ed Services report with Dr. Nicole Odell.
So a lot of good things going on in Ed Services. I just want to call out a few things for you. First of all, you already know about the science fair that's coming up, but the past 2 weekends has been very busy. We had playing practice from our early education and care. They had a large number of people here this past weekend, and the prior weekend before that, we had our expanded learning team was doing a conference that they helped set up in Sonoma County. So our staff has been putting on large conferences and have been attending a lot of trainings. I want to call out our foster and homeless supports. Many of you may know that there was a fire on Lovers Lane in Ukiah, where several individuals lost their home or they are not able to get back in because things are shut down. And our foster and homeless have been connecting our families there with support. So I want to call out their efforts and make sure that we know that. A couple things coming up. We are going to CABE, which is the California Association for Bilingual Educators Conference. It is in Long Beach this year, and usually there's anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 bilingual educators or educators of English learners. We have a large team going, and we have several of our districts going. We have a team from Round Valley, we have individual from Laytonville, Willett's team, Fort Bragg, and then us, and then Manchester. So we have about between 20 and 25 of us all going to experience the conference, and we are all looking forward to that and supporting our English learners moving forward. So we're very excited about that. And then we have been doing our differentiated assistance meetings with our districts,
and we have those almost complete, and it's been a great experience to collaborate with them and hear what their needs are and how we might fulfill those as we move forward. And Jennifer Bailey and Jennifer Colley have been doing a lot of work on those, so I want to mention those two staff members. Now, are there any questions?
Thank you.
Welcome. None from me. I did point out one typo earlier.
Yeah.
Old on. Okay. Moving on. Yeah. Well, I've been having problems with my autocorrect too, and I can see how odd would be old.
Yeah.
Moving on to item 6.4, business and administrative services report with Heather Rantola.
Good morning. I will highlight just a few things as well. In our internal fiscal services with Suzanne, you just heard her second interim budget presentation. There's a lot that goes into it. She does such an excellent job, so I wanted to commend her for that. Her team is also preparing to present and do some training in our agency around requisitions and kind of some of our fiscal practices. We've hired a new account tech 2, which is the MCOA payroll. And she started a couple weeks ago. Her name's Bethany, so we're excited to have her part of our team. We also have a new person helping with our AP review of districts. Her name is Michelle De La Rosa, and so we're also excited to have her. We filled the fiscal advisor position, and that person will be coming to us from one of our districts in the county, and we'll be starting on July 1st. Our fiscal teams are very excited about Science Fair. They love getting involved in that and helping in any way they can. So they're, working on some of those things. And under our risk manager, she is working on the comprehensive school safety plan, which you'll see next month for review. We're also gearing up for open enrollment for health insurance, and that typically is around April or May. We don't have the date set yet, but we're working on getting that prepared. IT is working on, feels like it's like a never kind of finishing up, but continuing work on E-rate submissions and helping districts with that. They're also working to do some of the installs at 4 of the districts in the county. And then we're going to be working on some of the microphone issues that we've had in this room, so that we're hoping will be ready for the next board meeting. In maintenance and operations, we've been seeking applications for EV chargers and kind of like getting the infrastructure. So we've submitted some applications for grants. It does look like we're going to be given 6 EV chargers, so we're excited about that. It still requires infrastructure and other things to get into place, so that's where those grants will come into place. And then, let's see, Suzanne mentioned that we have contracted with Enterprise to lease some of our vehicles. We did a cost analysis of that, and looking at purchasing vehicles over time. There's a lump sum up front, and then as we're putting money into it, it just wasn't as cost effective as leasing some of our vehicles. So we are leasing 3 Toyota Camry RAV4s, which are all-wheel drives. And we expect those to be arriving around May, and then a Toyota RAV4, which will be here around September. So we're really excited about that. I think staff, there's been such a need for it too. So they're, I think, also very excited about it. And I think that is all I have at this time, unless there's any questions.
I have a couple questions. The EV chargers, you pretty much answered that. Do we have a spot, or are we just looking at spots that they might go?
We have an idea of where we would like them to go, which is in the main parking lot, but on the other end. But with that, there are some ADA compliance and path of travel requirements that we have to look into to see if that would be possible. So we might have to split it up a little bit, but we'll be working with those vendors to come up with the appropriate place for that.
And question on the new vehicles we're purchasing for M&O. Do they share those? Or are they specific vehicles for people to use, or do they stay here? And how does that work?
That's a good question. We have, because we have the 2 school sites, we have the fleet that's here, and then we have the coast office. So we are going to be designating, some of these vehicles are replacing some of those aging ones. And then we're adding 2 additional, one for the coast and one for our river campus. But those are available, like if somebody from the school wants to be able to utilize those, they would be able to reserve that as well. And then we do have more school site specific vehicles for like student transportation, vans and things like that.
I just imagine maintenance vehicles being more of a pickup truck, not a camera.
Yeah.
So I was just.
Are you referring to maintenance vehicles though?
Well, it was under M&O, wasn't
Well,
it?
that's because that's the department that
Oh, okay.
manages our vehicles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're not, okay.
No, they're for people,
Thank you.
speech
General
therapists,
area on that.
whatever, yeah.
What else did I have? No, I think that was it. And
No,
I think,
that's great, cause staff need, I mean, it's important, we have crazy roads that we drive
Yeah.
on, so it's great.
they have a good gas mileage was great too.
Yeah, they do have great guys.
It looks like the vehicles that will be leased will be hybrids.
Yes, they're all hybrids and all-wheel drive as well, so they'll get approximately 51 miles per gallon, which is great. It's more efficient than I think the vehicles that we currently have.
And I think we recognized our Ukiah team for mock trials at the last meeting as well. It's just so, we're so used to them winning, but
I
they're,
have a little bit in my report on that.
oh, okay. That was in here too. Any other questions or comments besides mine? That was a good report. Thank you. All righty. Moving right along to item 6.5, our superintendent's report with Nicole Blanzer.
Yes, I'll start with the mock trial. So February 8th was the Mendocino County mock trial competition. Apparently there's a wild card draw that draws a county that gets, if there's an odd number of teams going to the state champions, more than one team can go from a particular county. So in our county, Ukiah Unified or Ukiah High School won the mock trial. Laytonville came in second, and since we had a wild card draw, they get to go to state as well. So that is very exciting, and they both had excellent teams. So that's I'm really glad to see that there's so much work that goes into it. And since we're a smaller county, our competition is all done in one day, where in larger counties they might go multiple times over a period of a week or 2 weeks. So it's great for the Laytonville team and the Ukiah High School team that they get to continue with their work and go to the state competition, which is held March 14th through the 16th in Los Angeles. So we are proud of them and excited for them. Since
Question on mock trial.
Yeah.
Okay, so seems like we have the same schools that compete year after year. Is there any effort or method to try to get more schools?
Yes, actually there has been, and this year we had a school that was going to have a team, and then that didn't work out due to numbers, but we are trying to get more teams because it's better for everyone if there's more teams to compete against. Yeah.
And we had some fantastic middle school teams this year as well.
Correct.
So there'll be update coming up.
Yes.
From different districts or?
You know, I don't remember.
Yep, charter schools. I think that they were, there's a Fort Bragg charter school, and, I think I have it here. Oh no, I didn't print it out, but yeah. Tree of Life had one. Cool. Yeah. Since the last time I was here, since I missed the February board meeting, but I wanted to let you know I've been out and about. I was at Mendocino High School, Ukiah High School. I did class presentations on very different subjects in those schools. Mendocino High School, I was presenting to a social studies class on legislation, being an elected official, answering their questions. They were very engaged. And then Ukiah High School, I got to present to some CTE students on resume writing and finding jobs using AI for your application and for resume and in an authentic way. So that was a fun time as well. We had an all staff meeting on February 26th. We have quarterly all staff meetings, and we. One thing that we try to do in every all-staff meeting is have a different program or department present so that our staff can see some of the work. We have, some of our work is so spread out that we want our staff to feel like a team and know how their work connects to other people's work. So this last month we had Bessie Glossinger present on her, she's our extended learning specialist coordinator. I can't remember her title. Anyway, she gave a great presentation, and then we talked about impact of federal mandates. This last Saturday, or March 1st, the Teachers on Teaching at Mendocino College, they did their annual Teachers on Teaching conference. It's a really unique and cool conference that they do, where they have teachers come present on teaching. So the practitioners from Lake and Mendocino's counties come and present to other practitioners. Really, really well done. The college does a great job with that. We had teachers from Ukiah and Potter Valley were both presenting. I don't think we had any others this year. So it's a good time to see some of our professionals highlight some of their good work. There was also a student panel in the morning that were some college students from community college, four-year college, and somebody in a master's program as well, really talking about resiliency and trauma-informed practices and things that they wish educators would have known about how they handled their own trauma in class. Really well done. And the afternoon, I wasn't able to stay, but there was also a panel of high school students. Actually, the morning panel also included a high school student. So really well done. That's the first time I've seen them include student panelists in the Teachers on Teaching, and they did it really, really well. I want to share with you some advocacy that I've been involved in. At our meeting on Friday, I talked to you a little bit about a trip to Sacramento. In addition to that, where we met with legislators, in addition to that, this last week I sent letters to Senator Adam Schiff, Senator Alex Padilla, and Representative Huffman to reauthorize the Secure Rural Schools Act. This is funding that comes to schools that has to be reauthorized, which is it seems like it has to be reauthorized every time we turn around. We're talking about it all the time because it's money that districts due to that have high forest, what am I trying to say
National
here?
forest.
Yeah, national forest in their county or in their district get a certain amount of funds because that forest decreases their base for their tax base. So this advocacy was through the Small School District Association, who was in their director was in Washington on Monday, so he wanted to have letters in hand when he met with these representatives. Also, a letter to Assembly Member Maritsuchi supporting Assembly Bill 401, and this is regarding the Career Technical Incentive Grants. I spoke a little bit to you about this on Friday. This funding, there's a lot of funding that gets the COLA, the cost of living adjustment. This funding does not, which means that money is worth less and less. That those grants are worth less and less every year. So this bill does two things. It would make the grant be a 4-year cycle rather than a 1-year cycle, and apply the COLA to it. The 1-year cycle makes it so long-term planning can be really difficult, and partnerships with colleges and community colleges can be difficult because in building a partnership, you want to know how long can we plan for. So this is really important legislation that I think is getting. I feel optimistic will pass. And then also this last week, a letter in support of the County of Mendocino's U.S. Forest Service Community Wildfire Defense Grant Program. So that was the county asked us for a letter of support, and we were happy to give it. And to close, I want to encourage you as you leave today to go through the main building, and in the entryway we have student art up. Their entries for the science expo, the STEAM, science, technology, education, arts, and mathematics. So it's the art, one of the art components of the STEAM expo. So you can see copies of them on display in the entryway there. So that is my report. Are there any questions?
I was wondering if I could see the letter that you wrote about the national forests.
Sure.
I mean, if it's not no trouble, not this minute or anything, but
Sure.
I feel very vested in that as well.
Sure.
Overall, I think it's the only district that was installers. Okay. Big.
Are you talking about
If we
the fire defense?
Yeah.
That's a different one.
Is that
Yes.
a different one? Okay.
Yeah, no, but I
No, but the other one was the forested area that we get.
oh yeah, I can show you that.
Yeah. was my only question. Any more questions
Thank you. It's great.
for Super Nicole? Okay, moving on to board member reports. Let's just go down the line, starting with Michelle.
All right, thank you. Well, I want to invite the board to an opportunity at Willits Middle School on Thursday, at 3:30 it's the 13th. Bechtel Grove is having a ribbon cutting for being Blue Zone's approved work site. And there's some bigwigs from Blue Zones LLC that are coming to visit. It's a really exciting opportunity for Bechtel Grove. I know Principal Chris Kinney is very excited. So to see, Chris Kinney, sorry, to see county board members would thrill him, or any county board people. I know it's really exciting. I also was
Michelle,
at,
when was that?
it's the 13th at 3:30.
I can send something out because I asked Chris if it's okay to extend the invitation to the board members, and so I have something I was going to share with you later today, and so I can get you a link to the information on that.
I'm a total geek for PBIS materials, and I happen to be at the dollar store, and they have the cutest little kindness bingo cards at the dollar store right now. And they are completely appropriate for like elementary, even middle school teachers, I thought. So nice. Here you go, Dr. Odell. They're super cute. They've got things like, let someone have a turn before you, tell a joke or make someone laugh, read a book with another classmate, smile at someone today. They're just very cute little kind of PBIS-y things that spread kindness. So thought I'd share. And I just really appreciated our workshop on Friday. It's nice to spend time with everyone. And yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. I'll go next. I was going to talk about a workshop as well. I was so impressed with the Noya Harbor. I haven't been there in probably 25 years. I was there when it was just an old restaurant, and it was an excellent restaurant. But it changed hands a lot back in those days. It was really hard to keep it going. I was amazed, and I can't wait to go back there again. I think we got a lot done. What else did I want to talk about? No, I think that was it. Okay. Moving on to Dawn.
Well, I'm still on the housing committee and I read all those emails all the time. But, I'm a little bit frustrated in terms of how do you really proceed in all of that? And so, and of course, it seemed like somewhere along the line, the county hired someone, or maybe it was the school board association or something that was a housing specialist of some sort.
CSBA did, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm looking for help there.
But they assured us that they would be contacting us for a county board of education work group on housing.
That's what
Yeah.
I was looking for.
Yeah, so I have not heard back. I have reached out to them a couple times now, and they have assured me both times that they will be setting up that work group.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, we've talked about doing our board workshop, and that was really a great experience. I liked how we got to get a little interactive with, each other and define what our leadership skills were like, and I thought that was really fun, and it gave us a chance to get to know people a little bit more. I remember doing the new county board of trustee workshop with CSBA. And one of the things that they touched upon was the importance of building a positive work culture. And I feel like that was something really important for us to come together and do. I wish we would have had a new person installed at that time, because I think it would have been great to get to know the new board of trustee. But I thought that was great, and I hope we get to do more things like that in the future. We had some really good discussions too, so that was definitely an afternoon well spent. And the other thing, I guess, to report is I, more as a parent rather than just a community volunteer or in official capacity, was work at the Safe and Sober fundraiser for the class of 2025 for Fort Bragg. We had some great turnout. Thank you for coming, participating, and supporting the class. But yeah, it was a great event.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Veronica, for hosting that fun activity for us.
Yeah.
That was great. Okay,
I thought of one other thing here.
go right ahead, John.
You know, I read through all of our board goals there. I'm impressed, they were really nice. There's guidelines for board members in there, and let's expect the best. Listed so many things, but there was one thing that I think is missing there. And it's important to me because when I was teaching, I did some very good teacher training with the county. And I look at all of those goals, and it's also kind of a good description, a job description of what the county does. But I don't remember seeing anything in there about the amount of training that's provided for teachers in the county.
That's
Next year, I'd like to see that.
well, you know, one thing that we are trying to, the staff is trying to do better is keep you in the loop on some of the stuff that we're doing, because there is so much training going on. The training that I attended this Saturday, put on by our early education and care group, there were over 100 people involved in that, and the presenter is a local educator and author, and it was so well done. So we are doing a lot of that, but I think you're often not in the loop on that.
Yeah.
So not that we are going to be reporting every time we do a training, because you would stop paying attention because there's a lot of that. But I think the department updates that we do, or the program updates where they talk about the training that they do for staff, we'll incorporate that, the training component into the presentations that we do to make sure that you guys are in the loop.
You know, and again, it should be written up in the board goals, because the board goals give a good description of what the county is doing. And training teachers is high priority.
There is a nice feature on our website. I think it's the very first page you come to. There is a section that says upcoming events and professional learning calendar. So I like checking that out every now and then just to see what everyone's up to. It's kind of fun. There is a lot that's happening. There's a lot.
But I recognize there's a lot more, but it's not, they're in our board goals, and it should.
Well, and that's an interesting thing. I think maybe we should talk to our presenter when we do the good beginnings, because you know, is that a board goal or a superintendent goal? Because that is within, I gave you a synopsis of the 2 goals that I have, but those synopsi, I don't know, those are in the work that I'm doing. I have those in a big document, and within that is, you know, is where the professional development of internal and external staff comes in. So I don't know if that is something that is a board goal or an agency goal. The board can set their own goals, that is for sure, with or without input from the superintendent or others. But I think that's definitely something that we should talk to him about, because I think the goals are great too, and those every year kind of revisit them and adjust them, but kind of see what his thoughts are on that.
And I think on your 2025 goals as county superintendent, you do, I mean, it doesn't list how you will support,
Right.
but it offers that, you know,
Right.
there will be support to all these different types of.
Yeah, because the training that MCOE does is a major part of what we do. It's always happening. Yes.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, that's how school improvement happens.
Absolutely. Moving on to item, we don't have any closed session. We will go to our closing items. Item 8.1, our next board meeting is Monday, April 14th, 2025. No,
It's actually.
That'll be our next regular going meeting.
March 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have, yes, 18th, the 20th, yes, and April, okay, 14th. An item, moving on to item 8.2, our adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.